Hello everyone, it's Anna with Loblolly Books, and I'm here to share with you some of my favorite Christmas-themed picture books. These are all books I have in my home and share with my family each night of the month of December. They're the classics, like The Night Before Christmas that I'm sure you know. There are many versions of this story with different illustrations, some newer and older, and each is as beautiful as the next. There's other stories that you probably know about, like the Always Funny, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and The Polar Express, which won the Caldecott, and even Merry Christmas, Curious George is always a treat. But there are some picture books that you might not know about, and I'd like to share some of them with you. Wendell and Florence Minor wrote The Christmas Tree, and it's about all different sorts of Christmas trees that we might not always think about, like the tree that is up high in the sky on the Statue of Liberty. Or maybe a tree that's just for mice. All different sorts of Christmas trees are in this book. Now this one, Merry Unchristmas, is a story about a land where it's Christmas every day. Can you imagine? Do you think it would still be as magical and wonderful as it is with it just once a year? You'll have to read this story to find out what the world is like when it's Christmas every day. Now this one is a super silly book, Mooseltoe. It's about Mr. Moose, who does everything perfectly perfect, and he is very prepared for Christmas. Wrapping and baking and checking things off his list. But he forgets one really important thing, the tree. You'll have to read it to find out what happens in the Moose household. Many of you know the gingerbread stories. This one is Gingerbread Girl, and it's all about a gingerbread girl, and I love the phrase that she says, I'll run with a leap and a twirl. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread girl. Look at her lovely licorice hair. So this is just a takeoff on the gingerbread boy, the gingerbread man, there's the gingerbread baby, there's a lot of them. So take a look, see if you can find some of those. Who doesn't love David? Now, David has been a favorite of our house for many years, and this is It's Christmas, David. And David does his usual naughty things, and you'll have to see if Santa really does come and leave him some presents or some coal. Click, clack, ho, ho, ho. Who likes click, clack? Moo, the cows that type, right? So here we have a Farmer Brown, and there's some trouble on the farm. Santa is coming, but you'll have to see if it's Santa or is it the duck. Mr. Willoughby's Christmas Tree is a fun story about Mr. Willoughby, who gets a Christmas tree and he's very excited, but it's a little bit too tall for his house. So you know what he does? He chops off the very top so it'll fit. And his butler gives it away. And then she takes the tree, but it's also a little bit too tall. So she chops off the top, and the top of this tree goes on to bless many families with their own little tiny trees. It's a wonderful story about giving. Now this book, Dasher, is by Matt Tavares. And it is a beautifully illustrated book about how Santa used reindeer for his sleigh. In this story, Santa pulled his sleigh with a horse. But this is told from Dasher's point of view, the reindeer, who always wanted to do something more. So you'll have to see how Santa came to have his magical reindeer pull his sleigh. And this one, The Broken Ornament, is a beautiful story about a boy who just is so excited for Christmas and wants it to be magical and super decorated and extravagant. And in that process, he breaks a special ornament of his mother's. But he comes to find out the importance of that ornament and a way to make things better. Now, many of you have probably heard of Jan Brett. She's a very famous author and illustrator, and she has a wonderful story, The Animal Santa. about little Snow, and it's his first Christmas, and he's not really sure that there is a Santa. He doesn't really believe. But he gets told all the stories about them, and he is really curious about who could possibly be this animal Santa. What animal is it? So you have to read the story to find out who is leaving the animals their wonderful magical presents. Now, Jan Brett has written a lot of books, and she actually has quite a few that have to do with Christmas. So besides the animal Santa, there is the classic, The 12 Days of Christmas, illustrated by her with beautiful detailed drawings. But she also has some very fun stories from Scandinavia. This one is called Who's That Knocking on Christmas Eve? And it's about a girl who is home, and it's Christmas Eve, and there's some strange noises coming from around her house. And there's a boy who's traveling with his pet polar bear, and he comes by to warm up. And while he's there, some trolls sneak in. You have to find out what happens with the trolls and the polar bear, and who's that knocking on Christmas Eve. She seems to like trolls a lot, because then there's a whole book about Christmas trolls. And this book has some very naughty trolls in it. So Treva and her brother are getting ready for Christmas, and they are getting all the decorations out, but some of the things start going missing, and they can't find their special mittens that were a gift. And so one morning, she follows some footsteps and ends up finding the trolls in a tree. And they're arguing, and they've been taking the Christmas things from their house because they want to find their own. They want to have their own Christmas. And so she helps them to get along and create their own Christmas. This is a great story, The Christmas Trolls. And there's one more Jan Brett book, The Wild Christmas Reindeer. And this is about the reindeer in December who have to get ready to pull Santa's sleigh. Now, they've been taking a break most of the year, and so little Tika is in charge of getting them ready. And she struggles to get them to listen. And of course, it has beautiful side panels where it counts down. And each day you get to see the elves making something new. But Tika has a hard time getting the reindeer to listen and getting them ready, brushing their coats, and in the right, they end up all tangled up. Tika has to figure out how to get the reindeers ready to help Santa. She's been kind of bossy and telling them what to do and arguing. And she finds another way to help the reindeers and help Santa. So that is The Wild Christmas Reindeer. Now, I have some stories that are Swedish Christmas stories. This one is Christmas in a Noisy Village, and it's by Astrid Lindgren, who wrote Pippi Longstocking. And it's just about it's an old story about a town and what it was like at Christmas for them. Then also by Astrid Lindgren are two books about the Tomten. Now these are Swedish trolls who live in people's homes, and they're tiny, like little people. And they live on people's farms, and they kind of take care of things. And so her books are the Tomten and the Fox. And they just tell you about the Tomten. But my favorite Tomten story is the Tomtes Christmas Porridge. Each year, the families are supposed to leave a bowl of Christmas porridge out for the Tomten as a way to thank them for all the work they've done around that farm that year, helping to keep things from breaking and keep everyone safe. And this year, the people are going to forget to put out the Christmas porridge. So what is going to happen? So this is a fun, magical story about the Tomten and Santa and the Christmas porridge. Now, I bet that you might have seen the movie that goes with this one, The Snowman. So this is the book that it was based on, and it is a wordless picture book, meaning there are no words in it, just illustrations. So you get to tell the story with your family, or your children can tell it to you. And it's a great almost introduction to graphic novels and how to read things in panels from top to bottom and left to right, and explain what's happening in each picture and tell how that picture comes together to create the story of the snowman who comes to life and takes the boy on a wonderful adventure together. There is a sequel, The Snowman and the Snowdog, if you really liked that story. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about some of my favorite Christmas picture books, and there are, of course, new ones each year and many more to add to your collection. Merry Christmas!